He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. That was a terrific conversation with Rob Stinson a few minutes ago as we begin to get restaurants in a position where they can reopen. If you missed that, go to the SuperTalk Gulf Coast Facebook page and the video will be there. But Rob gave a really good overview of the challenges they face and the opportunities that we face as well. Now let's turn to the City of Gulfport, to my friend Billy Hewes, the mayor of the City of Gulfport, and let's find out what's been going on there. Mayor, I checked this morning. It's been about 3 or 4 weeks since we talked. A lot has happened in the last 3 or 4 weeks, hasn't it?
Without a doubt, it's we're still in the changing hour to hour, day by day mode.
So I know that the rubber kind of hits the road with you guys, the mayors, and you've got a lot to say grace over. And I'm so sorry that you face this, but I've been watching you closely, and this is the time that leadership shines, and you've been doing a great job of leading the conversation. What are some of the big subject matters that you've had to grapple with over the last couple of weeks?
You look for silver linings, Ricky, and one thing that I mentioned last time we talked that has continued to be consistent is the collaboration we're seeing in communications from mayors and even county supervisors across the coast. We have a regular meeting twice a week just to kind of give everybody an update on where things are, and this collaboration I think has helped send a unified message to the public as far as where curfews are being put in place, why some businesses can and cannot close, and also keeping what flexibility, because what works on one end of the coast may not be appropriate for the other end of the coast, but there are some, I guess, universal characteristics. So trying to balance that, trying to get our businesses the information they need as far as when. Everybody wants you to speculate, and the guessing game doesn't serve any purposes. So when we have good, hard information from a medical standpoint, statistics from the hospitals, doctors, and then the business community as well, you're looking at all that. As I've said before, there is no playbook for what we're dealing with here. So we're having event processes and procedures on the fly. Most folks have been working with us. Businesses understanding the need to limit the capacities in their places of business where they can conduct affairs. We're making the move now. The governor just came out with a new executive order that's going to be effective Thursday, which a lot of folks have been waiting for, allowing restaurants to really go from curbside only, takeout only, to some limited access internally, as long as we observe social distance. And I'm sure you talked to Rob about that. But we still need to be very cautious. We are still at the peak of this outbreak. We have flattened the curve for a number of days, and that trend has really allowed the governor and mayors to give consideration to what the lay of the land is and how active we can be. The trick is getting the public to understand that it's not back to normal, and when you do go out, make sure that you're wearing a mask, make sure that you social distance, make sure that you sanitize. And we're seeing some folks thinking it's the Wild West again. And if we're not careful, we're going to have a relapse in this second wave people talk about, and we don't want that. That is probably the worst thing that could happen. So we just need to make sure that we're vigilant as a people, as a community, and don't only leave it up to businesses, that we have an individual responsibility to look out for our fellow man.
So, Billy, I say this on just about every show. In fact, I say it on every show, reminding people that this is not a light switch. It's literally a volume control. As long as we can continue to show the number of daily reported cases on some kind of rolling averages moving down, we're able to progress through the various phases in terms of reopening the economy, that we're not flipping the light switch. I think a lot of people, they've been so stir crazy from being hung up in their homes that they want to believe that things are getting better, so to speak, and that, the light switch is back on and we can go back to doing whatever we need to do. But we're gonna live in this mode for a long period of time until we get a vaccine. And people have got to continue to work to protect themselves. They've got to wear a face mask when they're in public. They got to do social distancing. Because the thing that I keep focusing on, and you said it a minute ago, but I think it helps to kind of refocus on it for a second, that any outbreak that occurs in coastal Mississippi, any outbreak, that's substantive and measurable, that the data shows us we've really got an outbreak, what that's going to do is cause us to have to turn the volume back down again, and and it triggers moving back a phase. I think most people want to believe when we say things are getting better, it means that we're really getting better and life's going to get back to normal. But what we're really trying to do is find our new normal within the context of the situation that we're in now, which is life without a vaccine means we got to learn to live with it. Basically, that's the argument, right, Billy?
You know, the contextualized component is probably key. You know, whatever new normal is or whatever it's going to be, we have to make adjustments, and most people are adapting pretty well. You know, we by nature as a society are optimistic. We want things to get better. That's human nature. So when it doesn't, we tend to get very frustrated. You know, there are a lot of folks who are doing outreach, finding ways to help others. But at the same time, trying to maintain some sanity level from this cabin fever. And we're asking people to be patient to degrees and levels that they've never had to experience before in anybody's lifetime. So it's hard. We've been saying it's going to be hard. But hopefully we can gradually get back to that some degree of normalcy where we can have some interaction. But I believe our world has changed as far as how we interact with one another. There's not going to be as much handshaking. There's not going to be as much contact, and it's just the reality of how viruses spread. You know, we could have read about pandemics, but until you've been through one, it's a different game. The challenge now, you have people say, "Well, who do you know who's been exposed to this? Who hasn't?" Most folks don't statistically, but look, just ask a nurse, a healthcare worker, a doctor, and they'll tell you just how horrible this disease is. I've had friends affected directly by this, and it is very troubling. It's debilitating, but not everybody has. But just because you haven't seen it or been exposed directly doesn't mean it's not real. And that's part of what people are wrestling with as well. Well, it didn't affect me, so I shouldn't have to be inconvenienced. And that's a bit selfish. And we need to understand that this disease doesn't care. It's an equal opportunity infector, and it's still out there. So we've got to be vigilant and make sure that we're sanitizing ourselves and protecting ourselves, because when we do that, we're also protecting others that we come in contact with, and that includes our loved ones.
Billy, I had a great conversation the last couple of days with Dr. Nicholas Conger, who's an internist at Memorial. You probably know him, and he specializes in infectious diseases. And we talked about sort of the Sweden model with the addition of masks and social distancing. It looks like we're moving in the right direction as long as everyone will kind of do their part to limit the spread. We can really test how we can open up the economy in a way that will really, I think, begin to bring some vitality back. But everyone's got to play their part, that's for sure. But it was just a terrific conversation. He's a very practical-minded guy, and Memorial in particular has done a really good job being aggressive with testing. He said that it's not for short of looking for it. They're looking for the disease, and the number of positives that have come back have been, thank God, pretty low. But there's still cases, and every day we report new cases, and every time there's a new case reported, there's the potential that has spread to others, and people just need to be focused on that reality. Anything else about that point, Billy, before we shift gears?
Yeah, the old saying that you'd rather be lucky than good. And most of us will take that, and I think that may be the case for our coastal community, because there were a lot of reasons and factors that we anticipated a much more significant outbreak. And maybe it's because enough people did take these recommendations seriously that we did not have the outbreak, because we were primed to have a real problem. Fortunately, our hospitals have not been overrun, and if we continue to be smart about it, I think we can avoid that still moving forward as we open up the world, our community, businesses, and hopefully life itself.
One of the things I want to get in the second segment, Billy, we'll talk a little bit more about the relief packages that are coming down, and ground zero really are the cities, and we'll talk about that more specifically. But how's the city employees doing? You're just full of first responders all around you. Tell me about what you're seeing in the spirit of the Gulfport employees.
Well, there is a great solidarity as far as understanding what our mission is, and that was in place before this even happened. The true heroes in this are the frontline healthcare workers. I mentioned nurses, the doctors, the physicians, people who are literally waiting in and exposing themselves. We put policies and procedures in place for access, restricting access to our city offices and buildings. We're about to make that more accessible, but they're very cognizant of it, and I think our employees have set a great example. We didn't send anybody home. We may have done some distance working and shifting to make sure that we had good presence, good spread amongst those who are coming in and continuing to provide those vital city services. You know, people don't think about city workers got to make sure the water's running, the commode's flush, you know, your basic necessities. And our folks have stepped up to make sure that these services are available uninterrupted, that they continue, particularly with people being at home. They have these expectations that we want to deliver. And so there wasn't a wholesale layoff or furlough. The prospects we could talk about in the next segment that our real concerns are budgetary because of what we know is going to be a great hit to our revenue collections to continue to try to keep city services, and we're going to have to make some hard decisions. And this is all cities and counties.
Let's come back to that. We'll come back to that after the break. I want to dive into that. But firemen and policemen, you know, life is going on. They've had to protect the city and do what needs to be done. And there are a lot of heroes out there doing that work. We'll be back with Mayor Billy Hewes from the City of Gulfport after this break.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast Vue on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to SuperTalk.msgulfcoast.com.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We're having a conversation with Mayor Billy Hewes, the mayor of Gulfport. You know, if there's a frontline leader that's probably under fire the most and have so many important decisions to make, it's the mayors. So Billy, let's come back to you. We were starting to talk about budgetary issues and whatever, kind of set that up, but also let's talk about the various relief packages that are coming down and how the city may or may not be addressed in those relief packages and what you see as maybe some real challenges on the horizon.
Yeah, that's you're right about what mayors tend to, and city councils and have to deliver on the front line. So whatever policies are enacted or adopted at the federal or state level, it's left to us to implement those. In addition to the ordinance that we pass from a municipality standpoint, and supervisors are much the same. And so the concerns with a downturn in the economy. People are concerned across the board for not having jobs, not being able to work, and there's a reluctance to get out there and spend money. But even where it is, we're anticipating a pretty big hit to our budget, and so we're having discussions along those lines. I mentioned earlier about having to invent things on the fly. Given the unprecedented nature of this challenge, this crisis, our federal delegation has done a remarkable job getting relief out to the public, out to people. In the CARES Act, which was the first act that provided the stimulus dollars, there was also a provision for, I think, some unemployment in there, support for businesses. But monies that went out, they went to the states to be distributed to the communities, the local communities. As cities, we've kind of asked, say, look, anything you send, why don't you just go ahead and send it to us, tell us what the restrictions are on the monies, and let us get it out quicker as opposed to have to go through these other filters. They did exactly that with large cities of 500,000 and above through this. And quite frankly, there are a lot of small and medium-sized cities that had greater challenges from a healthcare standpoint than some of the larger cities. I understand the critical mass with the large numbers of population, but the principle is the same. So our discussion, and there was another one, a municipal liquidity fund, which is a loan fund that's available to cities 250,000 and above. This may be more stats than you want, but the fact of the matter is, most cities in America are well below those two numbers. And so if there's money given to individuals for the stimulus to help with loss of income, loss of revenue, if unemployment benefits are given to individuals for loss of revenue, if PPP plans are given to businesses for loss of revenue, the same standard should apply for cities. And right now we're restricted as far as spending it on masks and PPEs and other expenditures that are directly related to COVID. Well, I would argue that loss of revenue is directly related to COVID. And so that's where we are as cities. And I'm wearing my hat not only as mayor of Gulfport, but municipal league president for Mississippi this year, making that same appeal. Say, guys, if it's good for one, let's make the application where we kind of know where the monies need to be applied. So help us out there. That's where things stand. We haven't gotten a response, but I think they're working in Washington on a new plan already, and maybe that will be incorporated. But that's where our concerns are.
Yeah, let's hope so, because you can already run this thing forward and see that there's going to be a big hole to fill. And the city's going to be facing some incredibly challenging, every city in America for that matter is going to be facing some really challenging budget situations coming forward. So, Billy, this is, this week we celebrate tourism. And I couldn't get off without having just a quick conversation about tourism. You and I talked about this before, with 80% of the visitors to the coast of Mississippi driving here. We've really got an opportunity to create the impression that this is a safe place to visit. What do you want to say about that?
I think that's the absolute truth. And it's really easy to talk about, because that's what we've been saying all along, even before this crisis that we're in right now. A lot of folks just look at the enplanements as far as people not using airport, not using airplanes. They're reluctant to fly because of close proximity in those particular vehicles. But for us on the coast, and this coast in particular, Milton Cigar has it right that we're the secret coast, still one of America's best kept secrets. But the more people discover, the better off they are and the better off we are. So I think we have a lot to educate folks about, as far as this is an easy place to come to. You can get on the beaches without being crowded. What can you say about the food? We got the best cuisine in the world. There's just so many good things to discover here. So I really do think that we may be in a better position to lure people in, because we are that drive-to market, Ricky, than some communities that may be too crowded, that may have challenges that you do have to fly to get to. There's just so many reasons to be here on this Gulf Coast.
My early conversation with Milton Cigar, he was really, I'm talking about very early in the conversation, he was already locked on to, we have this really unique opportunity to have all of our industry work together to virtually ensure that people can have a safe vacation. Then Linda Hornsby with the Hotel Motel Association, they're focused on making sure hotel rooms are clean. And then the casino industry is coming together, and they're going to find their way to reopen. It's all going to be different, but if they can still enjoy a visit here and go out and enjoy our beach and maybe go fishing or whatever the situation might be, we're in a unique position here in coastal Mississippi to take advantage of that. So, Billy, we're at the end of our time together, but I'll come back to you in a couple of weeks and just see how you're doing, and we'll stay focused on understanding how our city is going to benefit from some of these relief packages that are coming down, because clearly that's got to be considered. Hopefully the governor and others are focused on that as well. But I appreciate your leadership, and thank you for taking time to talk to us today.
Just everybody stay safe, be well, and stay smart.
Okay, buddy. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, "Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast."